Welcome back to another episode of SportsVibe. I'm your host, Arnav Sarkar, here with Andrew Rice, officially on episode 104 now, so another continuation here of the saga. This week's a very exciting week in sports, especially if you're a college football fan. It is the quarterfinals of the college football playoff. It's a really good time of the year, too. NFL is getting very exciting. The playoffs are coming up in that sport as well. The end of the regular season, quite a busy week around the league. I mean, obviously with the Giants, losing to the Raiders or beating the Raiders, losing on the draft spot and all that good stuff. So, yeah, not really my best week, but college football is very exciting. I cannot wait for this week. I mean, this is really what this is really what the season leads up to, is like these types of games that are, at the bowl sites. They're all really high octane and yeah, I mean, we'll get into that, but I mean, like, I guess, first of all, I did want to touch on like the other bowl games that have been going on. We've been starting to get towards some of the better ones. This past weekend, this definitely this week, we're gonna get into power bowls, between power opponents and big brands, and a lot of the Big Ten's big brands. But so far, like, I guess, what have you seen out of what have you seen out of the Big Ten bowl games and just like the bowl games in general that stood out to you?
Well, one of the few games that I actually did get to pretty much sit there and watch the entire time was that Clemson versus Penn State game, um, so kindly dubbed the
The
Disappointment Bowl on our
disappointment bowl.
outline here.
Oh
I,
yeah.
what I really saw in that game, and that game was less about a Penn State victory and more about a Clemson loss, because now I hearken Clemson to like the decline of the Roman Empire.
Yeah,
At the
yeah,
at
for
the
real.
end, the Mongol hordes are bashing on the gates of Rome. It can no longer assert its own power, and that's
Mhm.
what Clemson is under Dabo right now. They're
Yeah,
a team that's a husk of what they were. They can't assert their dominance really over their own conference,
yeah.
especially last season. Where 7-5 Duke won the conference.
That was this season. Yeah, I mean that's a fair point. Like, I mean, yeah, this season Clemson was so bad that in a weak ACC, like they still were nowhere near like the title game or
And you
anything
can't
like
even you can't even say just a weak ACC overall. You have to say it's like an abnormally
that. And normally weak
weak,
ACC.
like,
Yeah, I
because
mean, yeah,
how bad the ACC was this year is not normal for a Power Four conference.
no,
You know,
yeah, even
not
like
even like
yeah,
the Big 12, who hasn't been great over the past couple years, trots this out and goes, "Yeah, that's a power conference." Honestly, I feel
yeah.
like they would have been better. Maybe we should start calling them the Group of Seven and the Power Three.
Yeah, I mean they were really, really, really bad the ACC this year. I mean, Duke got the champion. That was bad. I mean, they had a few decent teams. Like Miami still in the dance. Virginia was pretty good, but they also lost to that Duke team. They got a bounce back win in the bowl. But yeah, other than those two, like Pittsburgh was like a fraud. Like they lost their bowl game to Eastern Carolina. East Carolina got dominated by Miami, Notre Dame, SMU. Not where they were last year. Like kind of average-ish, and Georgia Tech kind of crashed down. So even the better teams weren't really good, and Clemson was kind of like right in the middle of,
But you
you
can't even
know,
say that Clemson was one of the better teams because they weren't. They were like in the middle of the pack.
yeah. I mean, even in the weak ACC, they were still below like a lot of these teams. I mean, they lost, to Syracuse in the beginning of the year, which is like one of the worst teams in probably all of the Power Five. So they were not good. They kind of got their act together later in the year. They ended up winning four straight, including beating Louisville. Beating South Carolina was another. Both of them were a bit disappointing. South Carolina very disappointing. But at the same time, I mean, yeah, before that it wasn't looking good for them. And Penn State too. I mean, like kind of the same thing. It wasn't looking good for them for a long time. They, obviously we know what happened with them, and they lost to Oregon, UCLA, Northwestern. Everything fell apart. Then they lost a few more games. Then they won three more, and I think they turned. They got the hire right. Matt Campbell coming in. James, Terry Smith. I do like what he's been able to do for them. I like that he's still on the staff. I think that's a good move to retain him. But yeah, I mean, just really disappointing year for both of these teams. In the game, it was also very sloppy. A lot of, it was snowing the night before, a lot of snow on the ground, just not a lot of good quarterback play. Or, I mean, yeah, it was just kind of very, not a lot of offense. It was 6-3 at the half, it was 9-3. And then Penn State ended up scoring a little bit. Trevor Pena had a 73-yard touchdown. It's probably like their longest of the year or something like that. But like, I mean, it was just like, yeah, I mean, it didn't look great on either side, honestly, but and
No,
Clemson.
you're 100% right. And maybe the Giants will hire Terry Smith as their new head coach. What do you say? But no, it like again, this was more about because at the end of the day, Penn State was able to get itself together. You know, they
Mhm.
pulled off some rough, ugly wins, which
Yeah.
don't want
Uh,
to talk about that.
man,
But
yeah,
they took on uh, a 7-5 Clemson team from the ACC.
right.
You know, they as a 6-6 Big Ten team.
Yeah.
I feel pretty confident in saying that if Clemson played in the Big Ten, they'd have four
Like
wins.
4 wins, maybe
You
5.
know,
Yeah, they're not great. Yeah, it's like the reverse comparison that we like to make, 'cause sometimes, like, like, it'll bother me when people say, "Oh, Rutgers will go 8-4 in the ACC," but it's true. Like, I mean, I'm pretty sure they would. Like, and especially this year. Like this year's ACC, like, I mean, very easily, yes. And even probably in the tougher year, like they've beaten like all the ACC teams they've played over the last few seasons. Like, so I mean,
they haven't played any great ACC
that's
teams,
true.
but
We
you're
haven't
right.
played like a
Um,
Clemson, or we lost to Wake Forest in the bowl, or Miami like this year. But the ones we have played, we've been fortunate. Now, how that would go over a whole season, I don't know, but it'd probably go better than in the Big Ten, which is just the reality of the situation. I mean, but now we reverse the logic, put Clemson in the Big Ten this year. I mean, they'd struggle in the ACC. You could very well see them not make a bowl game, being the position where Rutgers is at. So I mean, yeah, like it's weird. Like I would have loved to get a shot at them this year. Like that feels like one of the few teams that you know what I mean. Like it would be nice for Rutgers to play like an ACC former power like Clemson. See how that one would go. I mean, I would think we would have a decent shot at it. And obviously, in the bowl game, both teams opted out. A lot of players out. The weather was sloppy. I mean, I think Allen and Singleton weren't playing. Clemson had a lot of opt outs as well. So just a really sloppy game. But Penn State, good for them. I guess they got the win. Um, and yeah, I mean, like it's kind of just a good way to close a disappointing season. I mean, you go to 3-6, but you win the next 4. You're 7-6 now, and you're turning the page. You have a new head coach, like so next year's soft schedule. So hopefully Penn State can, I guess, I mean, hopefully they can find their footing. I guess. I mean, obviously not as a Rutgers fan, but like if you're just looking at it
I don't
objectively,
hope for that.
yeah, I kind of realized that like midway through that sentence, I was like, I don't really want them to do that well. But I guess hopefully for their sakes they made it out of the dark ages, and for Clemson too. Like, I mean, they got a lot of thinking to do. Like Dabo Swinney's methods are really outdated, and like
They
he's
don't
not
work anymore. He's
not
done.
using the transfer portal. I think that's a huge mistake. Like, I mean, I don't know why there's like this insistence on that, but like that's just not working. I did think this year Clemson and Penn State's methods of like, okay, we're going to return a lot of proven production. I thought that would set them apart from like a lot of these other teams. And like, oh boy, I was wrong about that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I was like,
Yeah,
a lot of these teams have talent, but what a lot of them are missing is like that continuity, that experience. You know what I mean? Like, the quarterback play of like Giral or of Kate Klubnik, these guys. You know what I mean? I was like, this could set them apart. Like bringing back all those guys. They have good defensive players too. Like, they have good offensive players, and everything just fell apart for both these teams. And it really goes to show, like, sometimes it's more about like the true raw talent, the money. It doesn't even matter how long they've been together, rather than you know what I mean. Like this method obviously didn't
but
really work out.
listen. If a guy is a player, he can play. That's it. You know, like if a guy is a player, he can play, and that's the
Yeah,
end of the story. Your Ohio States are always going to be able to just get so many talented players that they could just even in an ugly game where they're not on the same page, they could just simply out talent you
that
and
is
just
true.
beat you that way. You
Yeah.
know,
It's pretty
Like
much
they
what
could,
happened. Yeah, this season they the whole D line went to the NFL, and they were still like this D line was still so good. And I was like, that was the one position I was like, oh,
yeah,
maybe that might take a step back. They still have Caleb Downs, they still have good receivers. The D line might not be. I was like, in game one, I was proven wrong because they shut Texas down. I was like, whoa, the D line is even better. I'm like, what is going on here? And the rest of the team, Julian Sain comes in. I mean, like locked and loaded, better than Will Howard, like super accurate. And then you have Jeremiah Smith, obviously Cardinal Tate. So anyway, I mean, we'll get to Ohio State in a little bit, but it's just sometimes like. Yeah, I mean, I thought Penn State kind of had the recipe to go over the top this year. I thought Clemson had a shot at making at least a deep playoff run. I didn't really think they were like a serious national threat, but I thought they were probably more of one than they were in the past. And obviously, both of them like crashed and burned like in the most dramatic ways. But anyway, I mean, that's it just goes to show like where college football's at. Like, like you could have like the proven production and it could still not work if you're not as talented. Like, I was thinking talent plus experience puts you over. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
right, like talent plus experience puts you over pure talent without experience. But in reality, it's more like talent and money is king, and experience is just like added benefit. So like and yeah, I mean I don't know, it's weird, but like I mean Davil Sweeney, like we really got to get up to speed because like this is not working. Like I mean you know what I mean. Like before it wasn't working to get past the SEC. Now it's not even working in the ACC. So like it's just like they really got to get their stuff together over there. Um, yeah, I mean Penn State Clemson though. Like I mean the disappointment bowl. Other than that, Big Ten games. I mean I guess Big Ten's off to a good start, like with Penn State, with Northwestern beating Central Michigan in the game, the Game Bowl Sports Bowl in Detroit, the Rate Bowl where Rutgers was at last season, Minnesota topping New Mexico. Heard that was a pretty good game, went to overtime. Minnesota won that one. Drake Lindsey, Darius Taylor had a good game, and they have a 9-game bowl win streak now, which is pretty impressive, I would say. Although they're not really playing like the best Bulls, but that's still pretty good. Let's see. I mean, Ohio won after they've been through a lot this offseason. Hawaii won in the Hawaii Bowl over Cal on Christmas Eve. That was a very good game.
That's
Came
just a home game for them.
yeah, yeah. It came down to the end. They made a comeback. I think their backup quarterback came in through the game-winning touchdown. After Micah Halahano went out. So, and Cal's quarterback, Jaron Kiwe Sagapulatele. I mean, that's quite a name. He's a very good player. That was a very exciting game on Christmas Eve that it didn't really catch in real time, but it was very exciting. And shout out to Hawaii. They have a 9-4 record this season. They beat multiple ACC teams because they opened the year with a win over Stanford. They ended it with a year over Cal. They, won a decent amount of games in the West, in the Mountain West. So that's a
So
fun
is the
thing.
Mountain West better than the ACC?
I don't know, probably. Yeah, I
Might
mean,
be.
I don't know. Cal has just had like the most weird season too. Like, I mean, they like lost 34-0 to San Diego State, but then they beat Minnesota 27-14. So like, no heads or tails. What's going on with them? They beat Louisville. Then they lost to Stanford. Then they beat
Wait, they
SMU.
beat Louisville and lost to Stanford?
Yeah. I don't know. Something is like wrong with that team. Like, it's like they're
Yeah.
very like Jekyll and Hyde, like hot and cold. Like it doesn't make any sense. Like, they've had the most bizarre season I've like ever seen. Like the results just don't add up with each other. Like it's like 1 week you're hot, 1 week you're cold. Like I don't know what's going on with them, but that's why they were 7-6. Yeah, I mean both seasons been going. Like it's like every game that you don't think is gonna be that good, like ends up being really good. Like the Rate Bowl, the Hawaii Bowl this year. Like it's like whoa, like the Hawaii Bowl is like a Christmas Eve treat, I guess. But um let's see, Army won the Fenway Bowl, the Pop Tarts Bowl. That's one I actually got to watch a little bit of. That's a really fun one. I love all the Pop Tart celebrations and the Pop Tarts going in the toaster. But the football on the field is also very good. Like you had a BYU team coming back against scoring 15 in the fourth quarter. They were down 21-10 against Georgia Tech. Bear Bachmeyer won the Player of the Game. Had over 325 yards. Haynes King, fantastic player for Georgia Tech dual threat. Obviously, they fell short. Yeah, but BYU getting the win, comeback win. Georgia Tech could not convert the go-ahead touchdown in the final seconds, and I mean, a lot of controversy around Notre Dame, obviously ducking that game and all that stuff. But like, I could not imagine. And it's so funny how Notre Dame just like so against the Pop Tarts Bowl and like everything it stands for. They're like, this is not worth our time, and everybody else is like, this is the best thing ever. Like, how can you not want to be part of it? And they're like, yeah, could you
We
imagine
were
Notre
snubbed
Dame?
in the playoffs, so we're not going to play in any bowl.
Right. Could you imagine Notre Dame putting sprinkles on their golden helmets? That would be the funniest thing in the world. Yeah, I mean, obviously they were too prideful, but they did schedule a head-to-head series with BYU for next year, who was their opponent. It was supposed to be their opponent in this bowl game, in the Pop Tarts Bowl. They scheduled a head-to-head with them, so I
Well,
guess
BYU said, "Call your shot."
yeah, so
Yeah.
that's gonna be exciting. I mean, I guess they'll have a series with them, a home and home, and over the next 2 years. And they actually got rid of the USC game to make room for that game. So that's they
I don't know
abandoned
if that
the
was
rivalry.
necessarily correlated with one another. I'll be
I
honest
think
with
that was
you.
like the only game. I don't know. That was the only game available for them or something. So I don't know. But yeah, that's weird because it's not like USC is like a bad team, but
Well, USC's their rival.
yeah, I don't know. That's weird, but I don't know what their rationale was. I guess after this season they wanted to have like they wanted to have like a quality game or another quality game for for playoff
And
purposes.
USC's not a quality opponent.
That's what I'm saying. Like I don't know. That's
I'm saying what I'm saying is I don't think the two are correlated. I'm gonna be honest with
maybe
you.
not. But what do you think their motive was? Because they didn't play them in the Pop Tarts Bowl, or like,
They probably just had an extra slot on their schedule that needed to be filled, and they thought,
that was
"Oh,
what USC's spot was supposed to be for.
I mean, I just, I don't get the point of ending a centuries long rivalry for something like that. So I don't think that would be their rationale. Let's
Yeah,
end this rivalry that we had since like the 1920s because we want to go play BYU instead. Like, no, come on.
yeah. I'm reading that USC had expressed concern about the timing of their game, like because the when it's in Indiana, it's in October. When it's in LA, it ends the regular season, which is I guess kind of strange because you usually play your non-marquee non-conference games or all your non-conference games in the beginning, but I guess this one kind of like is in the middle of the season or in the end. So maybe I don't know. Who knows if it's related to that or not? But it seems like Notre Dame wanted to go get BYU on the schedule. I think a lot of it has to do with the playoff like committee, like everything that happened this season. They don't want to, even though they now they will be in the playoff, like if they're in the top 12 next year anyway. So like,
Jeez,
yeah, that's a wild. And I think like the Power Four is going to get themselves like the four conference champions next year. So they're touching up on all the little loopholes in the rules or something like that. So we don't have the
it,
repeat of this season, I guess.
they're just doing this to root out the G5 teams.
Yeah, that sucks. Like, I don't know. Like, I think we talked about it a lot in the last episode of this podcast, but like, I think the one G5 thing is a good idea. Like, I think it's good to have representation of them, and some teams are deserving, but we kind of saw what happened when we had two of them, and neither of them were competitive, and it was just kind of like like so. I think that's a good idea to have like one, unless like the other G5 team is good enough to get like an at large, which in some cases it does happen. So like I would be open to that, but like just to have two just for the sake of having two, like but that's not even what they were going for. They were going for, the top five conference champions, and like it's not really their fault that the ACC's conference champion
So bad.
was worse than two G5 teams. You know what I mean? Two, right? Like yeah, I mean they weren't even ranked, and the two G5 teams were. So like I mean
Uh,
yeah, it's wild, but I don't know. More recently, I mean Pop Tarts Bowl. The Gator Ball. That's another ball that Rutgers was recently in. This year between Virginia, Missouri. Virginia getting the win. I guess we talked a lot about the ACC, but Missouri's down to like I think their third string quarterback. So yeah, I mean Chandler Morris played well. 13-7. Very low scoring. Another one I was watching a little bit of was LSU versus Houston. A win for Houston, who's ranked 21st in the nation, over LSU, who's ranked 7-6. Kind of had a really disappointing season, honestly, but they played good in the ball game. Michael Van Buren Jr., 267 yards, 3 touchdowns. Connor Wigman, former A&M, player, 236, 4 touchdowns. Trades Green for LSU had a good game. Also fun one. It was a shootout, 38-35. Houston able to hold off the Tigers, which is nice. It's like former G5 over SEC in a way, I guess, current Big 12. So, now like Lane Kiffin's going to be over there to retool everything. So we'll see what happens with LSU next season. Hopefully like a little more like a contender. But this season was just a disappointment for them. They lost to like all the good teams that they played. They barely beat some of the bad teams that they played too. So it's just like, I was really expecting a lot more from them. Same thing with like South Carolina, with Clemson, like with Penn State. But yeah, LSU wasn't great. Houston was actually pretty good. They went 10-3 this season, the Big 12, one of the upper tier teams. Good season for the former G5s. That they both struggled a lot upon getting into the conference. Not this year. They've kind of made their way up now. I mean, Houston rolling. Cincinnati did pretty good too, even though they kind of had a bad end. They went 7-5, but for them that was still a bit of an improvement. So yeah, both of them have been making their way up the ladder in the Big 12, especially Houston. But I mean, fourth best team in the conference now, not bad at all. Yeah, so I mean, other than that, now we kind of get to the good bowl games of the slate. We have Power 4 games starting as soon as tomorrow. Well, first of all, today's the Birmingham Bowl between Georgia Southern and App State, which is the game that Rutgers was supposed to participate in. Or well, not
Not
really.
supposed to. We were invited after other people
It's like
declined.
6 or 7. Oh boy, so like 6 or 7 other teams that like all declined bids and stuff like that. Everybody was just like, nope, we're not taking that one. We're not taking that one. Like it was, yeah. I guess nobody wanted to play Georgia Southern in the bowl because it's just like it would have been like worse than like the Pinstripe Bowl, I guess, in a way, with more travel and more this and that. And I mean, maybe Rutgers would have probably won, but like, it just didn't really seem to be worth it, especially without the defensive coordinators with so many players not, it's like hard to like drum up the interest in that. But App State, who is basically their rival in the Sun Belt, decided to take them up on it. So now we have a conference game in the postseason in the Birmingham Bowl. So that's actually
not unheard of, but it's still very unusual.
rare. Yeah.
I mean, think about it. We got a conference game in the college football playoff.
That's true. But those can still happen though. Like I don't think they usually assign bowl games to teams in the same conference. Like they
do.
I've seen it a couple times.
It's not often, but they still
do.
do.
I think like BYU and some like in Colorado had a bowl game against each other.
I think a couple years ago, Minnesota squared off against Iowa. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that happened a couple years ago.
Yeah, like I said, I think BYU and Colorado played last year in a bowl. So stuff like that does happen. I think they try to avoid it to the best of their ability. Sometimes I guess other circumstances happen. So in this year, I think it'll end up pretty fun. So yeah, I mean we'll see who ends up winning between Georgia Southern and App State in the Birmingham Bowl. But yeah, Power 4 bowl games are starting. Tennessee, Illinois is tomorrow, the Music City Bowl. Battle between the two orange teams, I guess. Tennessee will have home field, or will feel like a home field environment in Nashville. The Alamo Bowl, USC, 16th ranked against TCU. They've had a quietly good season, I guess. I don't really know, but 8-4, which seems like about right. Iowa taking on Vanderbilt in the ReliaQuest Bowl. Number 23 Hawkeyes, number 14 Commodores, one of the closest teams to getting into the picture that didn't. So yeah, I mean like a lot of interesting games. The Sun Bowl between Arizona State Blue Devils and the Duke Blue Devils, Sun Devils and the Duke Blue Devils are the ACC champions going against
the Devil Bowl.
Yeah, the Devil Bowl. It'll be so funny if Arizona State beats them because literally all of Duke's like losses are like non-conference, like that. Most of them at least. Yeah, it's been weird, but yeah, no, we'll see what happens there. Michigan going against Texas in the Citrus Bowl after everything that happened with Sharon Moore.
Actually, we're gonna call that the off-season hype bowl. How about that one?
Yeah.
Or the very underwhelming bowl. How about that? That's better. The very underwhelming bowl between Texas and Michigan, because that game is going to have a grand total of 17 points, 400 rushing yards, about 100 passing yards, and maybe like 3 or 4 turnovers
Yeah, it's
per
gonna be
team.
sloppy. It's like how Michigan and Alabama played the year after the playoff game was very like, like very sloppy game and everything, and it was just like in the rain. Yeah,
Because Arch Manning has not looked good. He's looked better, but he has not looked good. Bryce Underwood does not look good at all. Both teams have talented runners. They have great defenses. So that's
they
what it's going to
do.
be. It's going to be an ugly, ugly slog between two power
Yeah,
programs.
two of the biggest
And
brands in all of college football going at it, and I think they play next season in the non-conference too, if I'm not mistaken. Like
I
I
think
think
they
they
do.
start, they
But
start a home and home.
this is one of the instances where I will root against the Big Ten team because
Me
I
too. I
can't
don't like
stand
Michigan
Michigan.
either, especially after all the stuff that's like happened with them. It's like it's just too much, like the cheating and this and the Sherman Moore like scandal and the fair and
Well,
like
first of all,
I mean,
this
all
they
that
didn't
stuff.
know. They didn't know. I will say this though: they knew about the cheating. They didn't know about the Sharon Moore stuff. The Sharon Moore stuff was
That was kind of off the out of the
that
window
was off the
field.
record. Like
Yeah, it was off the
he's the
record. I feel like the team kind of like it was like kind of low key, but I don't think anybody saw it falling out like this. And I don't know. It seems like they're finally cleaning house there, and they're taking Kyle Whittingham coming in at Michigan now, and like I think that's a good hire for them, like a no nonsense guy who's maybe not the flashiest hire, but can kind of just instill that discipline in them.
stability.
Back to their identity of running the ball, playing tough, no nonsense. Like I don't know. I kind of like that for them at this point in time. But yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Michigan for the off the field stuff. I also just don't really like them on the field either. And it's like it's rough with like all the stuff between Michigan and Rutgers. Like we've had the worst close losses and the worst blowout losses to them, and not a
We've
fan.
also had some off the field issues too with Harbaugh and
Yeah.
Shiano getting into it a
Oh,
little
that
bit.
too.
So.
Yeah, exactly. There's been a lot of bad blood, like, between yeah, exactly. There's been that, there's been 78-0, there's been all the close losses that we've had over the years. It's like it stings. Like I really don't like them. But yeah, no, like if they've been rocked, but now they'll be playing Texas kind of in the new era of Michigan football. Texas too. I mean, they missed on the playoff. Kind of had a difficult season, but they kind of survived.
How much failure does Texas take before Sark bites it?
Ooh, yeah. I
Yeah.
feel like they were kind of a little disappointing, but they kind of redeemed themselves enough to get to a good
No, I
place.
would say they were very disappointing. You were the number 2 team in the country when you first started, or number 1. No, they
Number
were number
one,
1.
yeah.
Yeah, they were number 1 when the season first started,
Yeah,
and they missed the
that's
playoffs. That's a
right.
disappointment.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, another disappointment. It's like yeah. I mean, I guess not as big as like Penn State or Clemson, but yeah, I mean, still not ideal where they ended up. But yeah, I mean, Texas going against Michigan should be an interesting one. Nebraska versus Utah in the Las Vegas Bowl. I don't know. I mean, Nebraska, like they had a rough ending to their year too. I mean, obviously you don't have Raiola. In the last few games, you lose 37-10 to Penn State. You lose 40 to.
Rayola transfers.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
he announced he's in the portal.
Wow, where do you think he's gonna go? Like in
Well, I
Georgia?
think it's very clear that he's going to come to Rutgers and compete for the
Mm,
starting job against AJ Serace.
yeah. Ooh, could you imagine? I would love to have like Raiola here, man.
Yeah, that would
Um,
never happen.
yeah, I
That's not
know.
happening.
He's probably gonna ask for like 5 million in like NIL money, like or something like that, like the way he is. Like maybe he'll go to Texas Tech and like follow in like Mahomes' footsteps or something like that. Who knows? I don't know. He'll be on his feet. But yeah, that's rough. I mean, yeah, then you lose 37-10 to Penn State, 40-16 against your rivals in Iowa. You kind of stumble to 7-5. Now you have a bowl game against Utah, who's 15th in the country, 10-2 team. Only two losses were against BYU and Texas Tech, who's just like another level of good right now. So yeah, I mean, it should be an interesting one. A lot of good bowl games coming up. We're very excited about all this, but all of this leads up to these are just the appetizers on Wednesday. All of this leads up to the college football playoff games coming up, which is going to be very, very exciting. And I guess that's the main purpose of this episode. We've kind of had a long, little half an hour preview of all the other games and recaps
But
and discussions of everything else. But I think we should definitely get into our four headliners of New
before
Year's weekend.
before we get into that, I just kind of wanted to share a little bit of New Year's Eve plans, at least personally from my point of view. You know, and this is the way I think that if you're a college football fan, it's the way you ought to be doing it.
Mhm.
I am heading over to a good friend's house at 12 o'clock, and we are watching bowl games the entire
Oh
day.
my goodness.
Yes,
That sounds
we are
amazing.
gonna we are going to be watching bowl games starting at 12 until that ball drops
Wow.
at the other 12.
At the other 12, yeah. Yeah, I guess, right? Like you'll be watching probably, in that case you'll be watching the ReliaQuest Bowl, the Citrus Bowl. I don't know. If you're gonna go like all Big Ten games, then you're gonna hit the Las Vegas Bowl, and then you're gonna eventually get to the playoff games or the one playoff game on New Year's Eve.
Yep.
Miami, yeah, and then the ball drop. Usually after that last game is like the time to change the channel to like the ball
Yeah,
drop.
that's when you change the channel over to the New Year's Rockin' Eve. But
Right. Yeah, like 11 p.m. It's like there's only like an hour left or something like that. But
exactly. But this is if you want to do it right, that's how you do it right as a college football fan.
yes,
You start,
sir. Yeah, I
you
feel
wake
that.
up, you don't even get dressed for the day. You put on your nicest pajamas, you get downstairs, you put the TV on. The ReliaQuest Bowl
Let's
is there.
go. I love watching college football like
You
that.
know, this is our Sabbath. This is the day that we're not supposed to exert any effort, and rather we are supposed to sit there and watch football.
And watch
Okay,
like the most athletic feats of all time. Like, yeah,
right?
right. That's how it'd be. Like, I mean, no, I mean, yeah, no. It's like I remember. Yeah, good memories on that day. It's like our version of like Christmas, like for like college football fans. It's like our gift. But yeah, no, I mean the playoff is a great day, or a great couple days. I remember when Rutgers made the game against Wake Forest on New Year's Eve. That was a really fun one because that started at 11 a.m. and Rutgers was like the pre-appetizer into the playoff that year. That was like
And you know
something
what?
else.
Like respectfully, I understand that game at the end of the day was not very close, but
Right.
they hung in
They
there for
did
a
for the first
long
half.
time.
Yeah.
They hung in there for 3 quarters at the very least before Wake Forest started to really pull away.
Right.
But and that
Yeah.
was a bad, bad, bad Rutgers team.
And stringing them together after everyone went home and Corsac like flew around the world to get to the
Yeah,
game.
Corsac was in Australia, and they were like, "No, you got to come back."
You have to take tests, you have to fly back, and he had like multiple flights. And no, I mean Rutgers really pulled it together that year. I was so happy. Like, I mean, you could say it was 5 wins and they didn't deserve it and it wasn't whatever, but for Rutgers to be on that slate, on New Year's Day, like, or New Year's Eve before the playoff
And
was
it
like
did
something
break the
special.
bullish streak. It did.
That too, yeah, exactly. It did, and yeah, so that was a fun New Year's Eve, and and then like going into Cincinnati, Alabama, and I think it was like Michigan, Georgia that year, or whatever the other semi was, and multiple playoff games. But yeah, New Year's Eve is a good one. New Year's Day is an even better one because you have 3 playoff games back to back to back. So like that's another one where you have to like get up at 11 and just like watch college football like from noon to night. um I mean, at least I know I'll be doing that, and like I'm sure we'll both be doing that. But
Yeah.
yeah. So I guess without further ado, we can get into our game previews, and not expect the pre-section to take nearly this long, but that's what makes this podcast a lot of fun. So yeah, no, I mean let's get rolling. Ohio State versus Miami, on New Year's Eve,
Oh
7:30.
boy. Oh boy.
Yeah,
You
this
know,
is
I
the most.
think I think this is my time to
Okay.
shine. I respect to you, Arnav, but you know, and according to some of the clips that you uploaded from our last episode,
Yes,
some of the little
sir.
shorts,
There's already a
I'm gonna
couple up on
double.
my
I'm gonna double down. You know, respect to Miami. Love their defensive coordinator. Love what he was able to do with that team in under 2 seasons.
hmm
Mo Toure, one of my
Oh my god, I love him so
favorite
much.
Rutgers players, made a stellar play against Texas
Yes, he
A&M.
did.
I'm sorry, guys, the road ends here. You know, no longer there are no pretender versus pretender games like there was last week
hmm
with Texas A&M and Miami going at it. Because let's be real, that's what it was, two pretenders. Now you are looking at a true national championship contender, and that's it. Like
hmm
I want to say like, oh, this is going to be a good game. It's going to be a fight to the end. Ohio
You
State
know,
takes it
definitely.
without
Yeah.
like really without much of an issue. They are favored by 9.5 points against Miami. Um, OSU's offensive line is really good. Um, I will say that Miami's D line is a lot better, both according to Pro Football Focus. Uh, 28th pass block grade versus number two pass rush game grade. I understand that, but really has anyone really been able to crack this Ohio State defense? I mean, I haven't seen it. I mean, not defense. This offensive line, I haven't really seen it. I understand that Indiana was able to dial up some pressure, but they have to be up there with Miami as well.
Hmm.
And I just don't know if Miami can hang with the defense. Can Miami rattle Saying?
Yeah,
Maybe,
that's the big question about it.
you know, but
I think they
but
might be
also
able to,
can
but we'll see. Yeah.
can Miami's corners hang with Jeremiah Smith? That I don't
Yeah.
think so.
No, yeah. Yeah, I don't, that's a good question.
Yeah. Can Bo Jackson take pressure away from Saying? Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Um,
Right. To
uh,
answer, yeah. Can
can
yeah.
OSU pressure Carson Beck? We saw it against Texas. We saw it every game of the year. We're going to see it again. And I think that, as you know, I don't think this is going to be a defensive slugfest. I think it might start out slow, but I really think that Ohio State's going to come in there, absolutely blank Miami, and then the offense is going to find a
Who's
way
gonna do enough?
to
Yeah.
carve, 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 and then when you're getting when you're getting slowly carved for the first three quarters, in that fourth quarter, you just start to unravel, and that's what's going to
Yeah.
happen.
Yes,
You
yeah.
know, Ohio State's gonna go into halftime with a 10-0 lead. Then all of a sudden it's gonna be a 20-0 lead, and then in that fourth quarter it's gonna be like a 34-0 lead. You know, that's what I'm saying, because
Mm,
there's nothing that Miami has done that has proven to me that they're going to be able to score and keep pace with this Ohio State offense against this Ohio State defense.
right.
You
Yeah.
know,
I don't yeah. I
I
think
mean,
the D line,
you
yeah.
couldn't even win your conference in a historically weak ACC. Like, are you kidding me? No.
Right. Yeah, their losses
End of
were
the
like
line.
really
You're
bad.
done. I don't. I If I was ESPN matchup predictor, I give them a 10% chance of winning.
Yeah. I mean, losses to Louisville and SMU on the season are not exactly inspiring any confidence. The way they played against A&M, kind of similar. That defense does look very legit. I mean, Mark Fletcher, pretty solid running back. We saw his performance, but like, yeah, I think I agree
And
with you. Like, to a large,
I'm not even sold that Texas A&M was a true contender. They were
no, I
a
don't. I think they
contender
were
in my
like they're
opinion.
complete frauds. Yeah, and I think it showed up against Texas and against Miami. Yeah, I
Mhm.
think you're right. This one comes down to a few things. Which quarterback can get rattled, or will avoid getting rattled, I guess. I mean, yeah, I think Miami's D line will help keep them in the game for a while. They can, the both of them. I
No,
mean,
no, no. See, I don't agree with that. Which quarterback will be rattled? Because I know that Miami is going to get rattled. The question is, can Miami rattle Ohio
what
State
else
to
saying?
to make it
Interesting.
a close game? We know that Miami is going to get rattled. That Ohio
Yeah,
State
yeah,
defense is
it's legit.
legit.
Yeah. Yeah,
You
and
know,
I don't know how like mobile Carson Beck is. I don't think he's like the most mobile. I don't think he'll be able to really get out of trouble. He'll be pressured. Yeah, I have no question that like Ohio State will rattle Beck. I do think Miami's D line with Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor will be able to get pressure on Sayin to an extent, and they have the number two pass rush grade against the 28th best pass block grade, which is still pretty good, but I think they'll be able to get there. But Sayin also does get the ball out very quickly. And like we said, Bo Jackson can take pressure away. The run game has been very solid, especially with him. I think you're right, though. I mean, I'm not sure if Miami could really run the ball against Ohio State. Like, I don't even Indiana wasn't really able to do that so well. So yeah, I mean, I think Ohio State, will win the game. I don't know if it'll be like 34-0, but I just don't see Miami scoring a ton of points. I think they can hold Ohio State, to like, to less for a while. They can, create some stops, but eventually Ohio State's going to wear them down, and they're going to be able to score, and Miami isn't. And for me, it's really that simple. I think Ohio State covers the spread, they win the game. When it comes down to it, they have more explosion on offense. I don't know if Miami's corners can keep up with the Buckeyes receivers and Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith. So yeah, I mean, I think even though the spread's been like 9.5 points, I mean, I think that's very apt for this game. I think Ohio State does win by at least 10, maybe 13 or more. So I think it might take a while, but I think Ohio State does probably end up winning like maybe 27-13, something like around those lines if Miami even gets there. So yeah, I'm pretty confident
I'm
in
not
Ohio
even confident
State
that
being able
Miami's
to
going
get
to
them.
score. I'm not even confident that Miami's going to score. Okay, I'm like, okay, maybe we'll give them the token field goal or the token touchdown, but I don't
Right.
know if they're going to score
Beyond that, like
twice.
I don't really see them like really
They
getting
could
anything
they could
meaningful.
hardly score twice against the pretenders of Texas A&M. Now that they
Right.
have to go against the true national contenders against Ohio State, no.
Yeah, I mean, especially if they run like their horizontal offense again, like that was a disaster last game. Like I don't know what they were doing. Like they have a
Yeah,
playmaker in
bad
Tony. Like,
schemes,
they gotta
bad
use him.
play calling. No, like come
Horrible.
on.
You gotta run it downhill. But yeah, I mean, the problem is you can't really even do that against Ohio State because their front is
Exactly.
atrocious. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's gonna be hard to see them scoring anything of substance, and I think Ohio State will by the end of the game, like they usually do. So I could see it being like 30-13 or like 27-10, like something around those lines. We'll see what happens. I think it takes 4 quarters, but Ohio State does get a relatively comfortable win for a playoff game, and they move on to the semis. So yeah, I mean that's New Year's Eve. Rematch of national championship game like 20 years ago. Ohio State ended up winning against Miami. Hurricanes fans are still salty, but I think as Jeremiah Smith said, they've got another one coming for them on New Year's Eve.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so
Love
we'll
it.
see.
Love the animosity. Love the, going at each other.
Exactly. It's always fun to get to like flip the U upside down. So we'll get to
My
see.
my matchup prediction.
Exactly. Yeah. There we go. Canes down. We'll see though. I mean, like I said, I think their D line is pretty legit, but I think OC's D line's even more legit. Their offense is more legit. And their playmakers at the end of the day are going to get them over the hump. In the fourth quarter. So, yeah. And we saw what it took to beat a team like we saw what it took to beat Ohio State. It took like a nearly flawless game from Indiana in the trenches, matching up with them, taking the deep shots. Like a lot of millions of things had to go right for a team that good. And like Miami just
And missed
doesn't.
field goals.
Yeah, and
Missed field
missed
goal.
field goal, by the way. Yeah, so it's like all of that had to go right for Indiana, the best in the trenches, one of the most explosive teams. Even then, slugfest to the very end. I don't see Miami even coming close to that type of performance because I just don't even know that they really, even if they have it on the defensive side, definitely don't see them having that on the offensive side of the ball. So yeah, give me the Bucks. And yeah, I mean, other than that, like moving on to the next one, we have Texas Tech versus Oregon. This is the one I'm probably one of the most excited about. I think because this is probably going to be the most even matchup of all of the playoff games, or at least of these quarters. Extremely even. Oregon's been a 1.5 point favorite on a neutral field. I think that's about right. I mean, yeah, like it really depends on the pass rushes and the O lines. Like
Yeah.
you're gonna think this is gonna be about the quarterbacks, and it very well might be. I mean, you have Baron Morton for Texas Tech, you have Dante Moore for Oregon, you have all the playmakers in the world. But what it's gonna really become a battle of which O line, which run game can be more successful, which quarterback can survive in the pocket. Because I mean,
Well,
Oregon,
that Texas Tech defensive line, that is something to be feared. And
they are
in all
absolute studs.
honesty, I think Oregon might have like you said, Oregon has like the token you're gonna win. But a 1.5 point like spread is not like I truly believe this team is gonna win. No, a 1.5 point spread is more like I think it's
Things,
gonna go
like, yeah,
this
they're like,
way,
yeah, but like I have no idea. Like that's kind of like what it says. Like they
Yeah,
could very well,
exactly.
yeah. These matchups are so interesting. I mean, because according to PFF, I mean, so the Red Raiders they allow they they have a 24.4% pressure rate allowed, and Oregon pressures on 34.4% of plays. So that's their O line versus Oregon's D line. And then Texas Tech ranks 16th in gap scheme runs, so almost 6 yards a carry, but Oregon allows just 3.5. So now I guess that's yeah, that's Texas Tech's run game O line versus Oregon's, basically their D line, So who's going to be able to survive that? Is Oregon going to be able to get to Morton? Are they going to be able to shut down the run? Then on the other side of the ball, this gets even better. You have Oregon's top ranked O line, their best pass blocking unit in the country, against Texas Tech's top ranked pass rush, their D line, which has so much talent. They have one of the top players behind them in Jacob Rodriguez. I mean, that's going to be insane. Oregon also leads the FBS with the best rush grade of over 95. They're the best in EPA per run, second in yards per carry, 6.2. They have three really good running backs that we've seen this season: Noah Whittington, Jordan Davison, Deer Hill Jr. All three of them are home run threats. Like they can run the ball, but Texas Tech leads the country in run defense grade, EPA per run allowed, and they lead the FBS with just 3.4 yards per attempt allowed. So, on one side of the ball, we have Texas Tech's O-line, Oregon's D-line, heavyweight fight. But on the other side of the ball, you have Oregon's top-notch pass blocking unit, a best rushing attack, probably one of the most explosive teams in the country, against Texas Tech's absolute game-wrecking run defense, pass defense.
Oh boy.
This is going to be something. This is why, this is going to be like some contest. You have the best, it's just like on one side of the ball, you have good on good. The other side, you have elite on elite. You have the best pass protection and run run units in the league versus the best pass defense and run defense in the league too. So, or in the country. It's just going to be wow. So again, like you're gonna think this comes down to the quarterback. So it's really gonna come down to is which D line can wreak havoc on the other quarterback, and that's gonna really determine it, because we saw what happened with Indiana, Oregon. And how many times Dante Moore was pressured by them. It took away all their explosive plays. That was a different game completely. And
I think it's fair to say that this team is gonna. I think it's fair to say that this team is going to live and die on the performance of Dante Moore.
Yeah.
I don't, and I think the same thing is true with Texas Tech, because it really depends on which quarterback is going to show up to play more. Now, don't get me wrong. I like Dan Lanning. I like Oregon. I actually probably have a little bit of bias towards Oregon winning in this game.
I do like them too.
But Texas Tech is just, I don't know. I don't think the Big 12 has. I don't think the Big 12 has won a single playoff game, if I'm not mistaken.
No, TCU beat Michigan a few years ago.
Oh, that's right. The big. Oh, right.
Yeah.
That was the only one that they've had, right?
I think so.
Yeah, that's the only one.
Well, wait, Texas. When they were in the Big 12, they made the national champion. No, they didn't. They lost to Washington.
No, yeah, they lost to Washington. So yeah.
Oh, well, that was just semis. That was just a 4-team, right? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, I guess not then, huh? Interesting. But TCU did win one. I remember that. Other than that, yeah, I don't think they did. Honestly, that might have been the only one. But that TCU team was good. They're fun. They were magical. This Texas Tech team is just damn good, though. This is like a different
contenders.
Like wow. This pass rush is insane. The run defense. The way they played against BYU, who's was a Big 12 contender, the second best team in the conference. They just wiped them off the face of the earth, basically. Like the way they wreaked havoc in the fourth quarter, they were just like bullying them, taking the ball away. This is like an SEC level D line, like in the Big 12. Like they are ready for the national stage. They are 100% ready, and Oregon's ready too. But I don't know. I'm leaning towards Texas Tech winning this one.
See, I don't know. Like maybe it's because of my personal biases, but I have this one completely up in the air. Because don't get me wrong, I feel like while Dante Moore has gotten rattled, I feel like there's just amount of times that he's absolutely like buckled down and won the game, won his team the game.
That's true.
It's just,
it's like again, like Ken Oregon.
I might be a little bit biased because I got to see, Oregon flex their muscle live, while I haven't seen Texas Tech really flex their muscle because I haven't really watched many of Texas Tech's games. So that's why I might be biased towards Oregon, but just from a stat point of view, I could tell that this is probably going to be the who has the ball last type game.
That's what it looks like, because it looks like both of these teams can like slow the other one down. I guess like Oregon can definitely get there, Texas Tech can get there, but they could still also have those splash plays where they both score. So this is going to be like a very back and forth game. There's probably not going to be too much explosion, but from Oregon or either side, but there will be enough where like those types of plays are probably going to be the ones that get you touchdowns, because that's probably all the other team's going to allow. Like I mean, if you have things like that, whatever plays Dante Moore is going to be able to create downfield are probably going to be the game changers. I don't really see that many methodical long drives like against these defenses, but I do see whichever team can create those plays. It's going to be back and forth. And yeah, I do think whichever team gets the ball last probably ends up winning the game, assuming they can go down and score. But like, oh man, this is going to be like an absolute treat. I mean, it's just like, like I said, good on good. But yeah, I mean, when it's good on good, obviously both teams are even. The protection versus the defense is going to be very evenly matched. And yeah, in those cases, like it is going to be which team can execute, which team can get the final score, all of that kind of stuff, or which team can get the last defensive stop. But I don't know. I mean, I could definitely see Oregon winning. I don't know. I just something about Texas Tech makes me think that they're gonna like like the one way you slow down Oregon is by getting the rush to him, and I mean, like that's what Indiana did. I feel like if Texas Tech can do that enough, they can take away Oregon's explosiveness, and assuming now they can also score enough on the other side of the ball, they could probably eke it out. But it depends. I mean, now if Oregon wreaks havoc on their quarterback, and Texas Tech isn't able to get to Moore, then obviously we're looking at a different story. But I mean, it's a true toss up. I don't know. I mean, which one of these two units is better, because Oregon's top offense is going to go against Texas Tech's top defense. It's just like which one of these two is going to like win out. I don't know, but I don't know. I don't know. Like my gut is like leaning towards like Texas Tech, just like being so good that they like they're able to do it, I guess. But I could be wrong. I mean,
See,
it is a
my
coin
gut
flip.
is telling me that it doesn't know who to go with. So
Hmm. It's interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's just I don't know. Like, I mean, because I think I've seen what happens when Oregon gets rattled. I guess it's hard to do, but like it's like I've seen what happens when Ohio State gets rattled too. Like they
I
also
will admit that a lot of this is coming from the fact that I've
you've
seen
seen
bits
Oregon like
of
you know
Texas Tech games all year, but I haven't sat down and completely watched an entire Texas Tech game all year. On the
true.
contrary, because I've experienced it, I sat down and watched a couple Oregon games this year,
Yeah,
whether
Indiana,
it be
the
for
Rutgers game,
film analysis, whether it be for
the Penn
just
State game.
matchup preview, whether whatever Penn State,
Yeah. The
you
Iowa
know,
game was like another one that they eked out. Obviously, Indiana was one that I watched. Yeah, I mean, like I've definitely seen more of Oregon on on TV and like whatnot. Obviously in the Big Ten, being a Rutgers fan too, we saw just how explosive they are and can be, and just how good that defense is. They're like a different beast. But the problem is like when they go up against a team that can match them, like it seems like they get in trouble. So like, is Texas Tech that good where they could do that? Because if they are, then I think they win the game as long as they have enough going on offense. But that's a question. Can they? I don't know. I mean, are they as good as Indiana or close on the defensive side of the ball? Like, I'd like to think so, but I'm not too sure, honestly. But I think it's going to be whoever gets the ball last is probably going to win the game. Like, I think you're right. I'm leaning towards Tech, but I could definitely see Oregon pull this one out as well. But I think we're looking at a one-score game, like 100%.
I would have to agree with you. I would have to agree with you there. I mean, I can't imagine one team truly pulling away like that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, especially with these types of defenses on the field, and how even like they look and stuff like that. I cannot see it. I really cannot see a team running away with it, because the other team will not let that happen. So anyway, so I mean that's that. I mean, it's a true for anyone who really appreciates the ins and outs of matchups in football. This is going to be the game to watch. Like this
That's
is
going to be the
good.
best game of the weekend.
Good
I'm
against
calling it right
good,
now.
yeah. Good against good, elite against elite. A true like schematic matchup. Like
True clash of contenders.
exactly, yeah. Yeah, and then yeah, it's gonna be the best game of the day. So for anyone who wants to skip the 1 p.m. game, which is a popular strategy, when you have the 4 p.m. and 8 p.m. games to watch right after, don't do it this year. Sometimes it's those games don't tend to be as good, and you want to sell in for the Rose Bowl, but this year this might be the best game of them all, especially if you're a pure like football fan. Like this is not going to be one to miss. Just from
Yep.
like all like a good on good elite standpoint. But that's not the last game of the day though. We have a couple more to get to. Indiana taking on Alabama at the Rose Bowl. See, now this is going to be a fun one too. I mean, we just talked about like like the football fans like ideal matchup. This is probably just going to be everybody's ideal matchup. You have a big brand against Indiana, the Hoosiers coming in number 1 seed. This is going to be like the most cinematic one of the 4 games. This is probably going to be the one that has the most eyeballs on it, and it's going to be a pretty good football game too. I mean, Alabama, for all their struggles, they came out and they played really well against Oklahoma. So I mean, it seems like they don't have as good of a pass rush, but they've been making up for it by having really good play in the secondary. They had a pick 6 last week. They've been able to disguise coverages and rotate their safeties and record a very strong coverage grade. But Fernando Mendoza, the Heisman winner, has been a very strong reader of those complex coverages, and his 90.8 PFF grade only ranks behind Julian Sayin. Indiana's run game is very solid. They run a lot of inside zone. They rank 6th nationally in EPA per run. They rank 9th in their PFF rush grade. They run a lot. They run a lot of vertical style of football basically. So they run up the gut.
Yep.
And they have a couple running backs, a trio that are very good. Maryland transfer Roman Hemby, who Big Ten fans might know from there as well. Kalen Black, Kobe Martin, the receivers. You have guys like Charlie Becker, who really made a name for himself in that championship game. You have Elijah Surratt. I think one of their receivers is injured too, and like Omar Cooper in the Big Ten championship game. I think he might be back for the New Year's game too. So a lot of talent in that receiving core for Mendoza as well. The O line is very solid. Alabama is 14th in successful run rate allowed and 16th in successful run rate permitted against the inside zone or man coverage, those inside runs. They have a very good run defense. Looks like they average less than 4 yards a carry. Or wait, no, this is the other side of the ball. On the other side of the ball, Alabama's run game not very good, averaging less than 4 yards a carry against Indiana's D line, which is 3rd in the country against the run, one of the best teams. Like we saw that against Ohio State. And then Ty Simpson has struggled against the blitz. Indiana is a very blitz-heavy team. They also disguise their coverages. They send a blitz 48% of the time. Very good at pass rushing. So I guess, I don't know, like with all the statistics, what I'm getting from this is looks like Bama might struggle on both sides of the ball, especially in the trenches. But the mismatch is their offense against Indiana's defense is like the bigger one. I think on the other side of the ball, I think they might be able to hang in there. And the other one is Fernando Mendoza is also a better quarterback than Ty Simpson, and that also could definitely sway the outcome of this contest.
I'm just going to kind of clarify your little points there because your points got a little mixed up when you tried to pivot.
Yeah.
Just to kind of break that down. So it really does sound like, the marquee matchup is going to be Alabama's offense versus Indiana's defense.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Indiana's defense has that very good pass rush. Obviously, they're good all around. There's no real weakness in that defense.
Right.
But can Alabama move them around enough to be able to put up points? I'm personally not too confident in that, especially with Alabama's struggles running the ball just in general.
Yeah, that's a big one for that. That looks like it could be a big mismatch because if they can't really run the ball against Indiana, then they're gonna have to pass rush, or I mean, then they're gonna have to throw, and that's where Indiana can bring their pass rush in. Their coverage is very good. We saw that against Ohio State too. So that's that's the biggest matchup that sways me in favor of the Hoosiers.
Now, right now, Indiana is about a 6.5 point favorite, about a touchdown, 1 score, which is what I would predict. However, in my breakdown of this game and after watching, Alabama versus Oklahoma, of course, Alabama came back and won that game, and it took a lot to swing that momentum. But
Right.
I really think that Oklahoma did a lot to just go, here, take the game.
Yeah,
Right
like
now.
the block punt,
Yeah,
like or
take it from us,
the interception. That was like a 10-point swing basically on that, and yeah.
Essentially, yeah. And then once you have momentum, because momentum
Momentum's a
is
real
a
thing.
real thing.
Yeah,
Once you have the momentum, it becomes extremely hard to reverse it back the other way,
that's
especially
true.
when that
Yeah.
momentum is just given to you. You
Yeah,
know,
exactly,
but
then you're, like, on even footing without even having to do much of the work, and, you
exactly.
have all the
But
confidence, you're like, "Let's go, let's play," we're back, yeah.
the
It's
only
harder.
real reason why I could see this game, being not or being a loss for Indiana, the only real way that I can see that is if the moment gets too big for Indiana's, players that haven't been here
Yeah.
before, because
Right, 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 right,
a
right.
bunch of Alabama players have been, they're always in the spotlight. They're always,
Yeah.
that's the only real reason I can see. But even
Yeah,
that's not
and
my
it's they've
most
been to the
convincing
yeah,
reason.
exactly, and they've been to the Rose Bowl 2 years ago, they lost to Michigan. They've been in the playoffs, like, most of the other years, like, except for, like, last year, but, yeah, they've always kinda been in these big games, and Indiana's kinda, like, on their it's not really a Cinderella run because 'cause they've proven themselves, but they're still kinda near the scene, and although they beat
They're
Ohio
swinging
State.
up. They're swinging
Yeah.
up.
They're swinging up, and, it seems like they kinda, like they got to the top, like, by beating Ohio State, and I think that was, like, a huge sticking point for a lot of people because if they lost that game, everybody, "Oh, like, they're not the best, and, they still didn't do it, and Ohio State's still better, and they still have to prove something, and only Ohio State's gonna win and not Indiana and nobody else." So they proved that part wrong, so they're like, "Okay, we're the best. We did it." But now, like, what if they get complacent? They're like, "Oh, we're the best," and Alabama's like, "Not so fast. You haven't seen a real blue blood, a real like threat yet." You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing could like mess with them because they'll be like, no, we saw the best, we beat the best, but they're like, you haven't seen us. So that kind of thing can like play into that. But if Indiana could stay in the moment and actually just play their best football, Alabama's not as good as Ohio State. Indiana can win this game probably more comfortably. But, can Indiana, like, yeah, like you said, stay in the moment? Can they really, buckle down, play their best, and not, allow that moment to get to them? Because, yeah, I mean, they've won the Big Ten championship. They've proven that they can beat the best and most elite teams. But this is a different stage. This is the playoff. This is the Rose Bowl. Everybody's going to be on them. All the eyes are going to be on them. Now it's up to them to play up to that standard that they've earned. So that's going to be the key to the game for them, I think.
But in all honesty, I think if they go out there, they play their game, they have their right mindset. They don't take Alabama as a joke. I
Right.
really don't think there's any scenario where Alabama just truly beats them unless, like I said, they hand them the game like what happened to Oklahoma. I still am not
Yeah.
convinced that Alabama did enough to earn that win over Oklahoma just on their own merit. I think it was a little bit more of Oklahoma, like said, take the game from us, because the
Mhm.
team doesn't go into a 17-point hole and then just swing like no, like come on. I wish I had a better way
Yeah.
to describe it.
It would have been
I'm
interesting
not
to see what would
convinced
have
that
happened if they didn't do that, I guess.
I'm still not convinced that it was their talent, you know, that propelled them to a comeback win. I think it was mistakes from um, I think it was mistakes from Oklahoma, if that makes sense. You know, obviously Alabama still has talent, and you can't mess up like that if you plan to beat them.
Right,
However,
exactly. And it's not like
if
yeah,
Oklahoma didn't mess up like that,
who knows? Like
I don't think Alabama would have
probably
won.
not, because they wouldn't have had momentum, and OU's defense was still pretty good. But I think what convinced me was it wasn't just the 17 points, because in the second half it was even, and then Alabama still took over the game and beat them, and Bernard caught the ball over his head. Like, you know what I mean? They kept it going for the second half. It wasn't like a fluke
Right,
comeback.
right,
You know what I
right.
mean?
But even if let's say Alabama does not get those turnovers, let's say even if it was even, that turnover, that ended up being points for Alabama could have at the very least been field goals for Oklahoma, putting
Oklahoma,
them in
yeah,
a further
yeah,
in a further hole. Is what I'm saying here? Because a lot of them happened on
yeah. That was the momentum
Alabama's side of the
swing.
field, especially that interception.
Yeah, and the punt, like, yeah, well, the interception went for 6. The punt went, like, it was blocked instead of a field goal. Gave them easy points. So, I mean, it could have. It would have probably become, like, a low-scoring game that Oklahoma, like, end up eking out at the end, I feel like, is what
No, because Oklahoma was already ahead by 17 at this point.
That's true.
If they at least kick a
A
field
field
goal
goal.
from that, from that blocked not blocked punt, from that interception, because that interception was deep in Alabama territory from my memory. I think it happened.
Mhm.
I think it was
I
at
think
least at the
so.
40.
Yeah,
You
it was
know,
pretty deep. Yeah, I think you were.
so
Yeah, yeah,
if they at least kick a field goal from there, that's all of a sudden that's a 20-point hole that Alabama has to crawl out of, and they have no points. You know,
yeah. I agree. It was a weird one. Yeah, because it was 17-0, and then yeah, there was a block field goal. Then there was a pick six from like around midfield. So that was basically like 10 quick points after the first touchdown, and literally
but what I'm saying
yeah,
is the likelihood of if those don't happen, Oklahoma gets points going the other way, and all of a sudden we're looking at a 23-point hole
yeah,
rather
been
than
like 23-7 or like something like that at the half,
yeah.
and then yeah, that's true. And then now there's no momentum. So yeah, I could definitely see that going the other way. But against a team like Indiana, yeah, I mean,
I
once
don't think Indiana's going to make those mistakes. They're
yeah,
like a machine.
if they get a 17-point lead, that's going to be pretty much all but over. Because I don't see Alabama keeping up with that on offense at all. So I mean, Alabama's going to have to grind out a four-quarter game if they want to win it.
They're
I think
also
if
going to have to
yeah.
slow Indiana down, which I just don't see happening.
Yeah, I think if they can, there's a chance because a few games where Indiana's kind of like struggled have kind of been the ones that have gone to the fourth quarter, like against like Iowa, against Penn State, like against Ohio State. Like those are, and even then, like they've been able to win all of them too. But like those are the games where it's been like iffy. But if Indiana can like build a cushion, like they'll just be rolling. Like Indiana's like you said, Indiana will like I don't know, like steamroll you, or Ohio State will suffocate you, and Indiana will steamroll you. So if they can steamroll Alabama, they'll do that. If not, they'll probably end up winning anyway. But maybe Alabama will have a chance. But for that though, they're gonna have to take the game to the fourth quarter. Again, like being in the moment, those kinds of things can help for sure. Because Alabama, they were the underdogs against Michigan. They were not as good as them, yet they had like a lead in the fourth quarter. Michigan needed like a miraculous comeback to win that year, which they did. But like, I mean, this Indiana team's even better, and I don't think this Alabama team is as good. So yeah, I see Indiana winning, probably covering the spread too, but I don't think it's going to be like a blowout. I see like maybe a 7 to 10 point win for IU.
No, I would agree to that. I think they do cover the spread. I take them to win by at least a touchdown.
Yeah, like I said, like 28-20, like 27-20, like something like around like those lines. Like I think will be pretty apt. For
Yeah,
like yeah, should be a good one. I'm very excited over the scenic mountains in Pasadena. That's always such a beautiful sight. Quite an amazing game environment.
Parade of
Yeah,
the Roses, right?
exactly. It's the best, in my opinion. It's the best bowl game. Out there. Maybe like the
I think
top.
us as Big Ten fans are a little bit biased.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because it was the Big Ten versus Pac-12 championship game all those years, and
Hmm.
yeah, Big Ten game. Big Ten teams usually in it every year, even nowadays, and it's so beautiful. It's just such an amazingly beautiful game and scenic, and the history in it, and now having these big brands in the matchup every year. It's just I don't know. It just means you know what I mean. Like for us, like that one just means more, I guess, to use an SEC slogan. But we'll see if it really means more against Alabama on Thursday on New Year's Day. So like
Yeah.
yeah. We'll see if the number one Hoosiers can keep their run going. They've proven it against the Big Ten. I guess now it's their turn to prove it against the SEC. So that should be very exciting.
Hmm.
And now that brings us to our nightcap. Georgia versus Ole Miss. Speaking of the SEC, this is an all SEC matchup, a regular season rematch. So yeah, I mean, Georgia's about a touchdown favorite. They won the regular season matchup 43-35. Ole Miss led 35-26, but Georgia dominated the fourth quarter on both sides of the ball, scored 17 unanswered. Yeah, I mean, they're a very physically dominant team, but they do a few different things well. They dominate passing outside the numbers on the sides, like talking about that horizontal game. But this one actually does work. Stockton completes a lot of his, against Ole Miss, he completed 12 of 13 outside of the numbers. He earned a 91.4% passing grade on those throws. Ole Miss really struggles in that category. They rank 76th in the nation outside the numbers, allowed 7.1 yards per attempt. So you're thinking like screen passes, thanks to the outside. Like they really do struggle against that. They also struggle against the run, against a good physical team like Georgia. Georgia ran for 226 yards against Ole Miss. 100 of those yards came on inside zone up the middle, 5.6 yards a carry. So Ole Miss's defensive tackles really had trouble against the run on the interior. So Georgia kind of bullied them there, and then they kind of ended up throwing outside the numbers to finish it. On defense, Georgia played man coverage a bit more than usual, up to 40% of the time. Trinidad Chambliss, a very good quarterback, he posted a season low 46.4 PFF grade, and overall he drops from 85 to 65, from zone to man coverage. Excuse me. On the other side of the ball, Georgia allows 3.4 yards per carry against the run. They held Kwan Lacey, Ole Miss's top running back, to 31 rushing yards and 12 carries. So it looks like on both sides of the ball, running the ball and stopping the run, Georgia, was the better team the first time around. Chambliss, I think, is a better dual threat quarterback for sure than Gunnar Stockton. So is
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, so is probably Jake Retzloff from Tulane, although he got completely, overmatched by Ole Miss. But Chambliss might even be better than him, too. They have a very skilled trio of wide receivers, like that Stribling guy, like all the guys that really, did well against Tulane. They have a very good offense. But Stockton's definitely no slouch. I think what's going to decide this is Georgia just is better on both sides of the line. Like I mentioned, they ran the ball like a heck of a lot. They stopped the run. So they basically, wore Ole Miss down in the trenches, and they have enough going in the pass game where they can move the ball downfield and stuff like that. So we'll see. I mean, we'll see what happens. Like, I mean, I think Georgia's the better team. Although, I'm probably going to root the other way, but I think Georgia's it's going to be too much for them. Ole Miss also had a fourth quarter lead in the last game, and they still lost it. So I don't know. I think Georgia's just going to be the more physically dominant team, and I think in this matchup that's what it really comes down to, because that's what happened the first time around. Like, can Ole Miss really change enough of that in this matchup? Can they fix a lot of those things I talked about in terms of the run, stopping the run, running the ball? Like covering outside the numbers is another issue that they had. I'm not entirely sure. I don't know. I think Georgia, like as good as Ole Miss is, Georgia like rolled Alabama in the SEC championship game. They look really legit this year. Like I think they get the win in the Sugar Bowl, and they advance to the semifinals, likely against Ohio State in another rematch.
Well, yeah, I would have to agree with you there. I really don't know if there's really much of a scenario where Ole Miss wins. I'm going to be pulling for them anyway,
Yeah.
but there's too much going against them. The fact that Georgia has already beat them, they've already asserted their dominance in the run game, and
Yeah.
again, Ole Miss has no head coach.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. If it gets down to like a pressure situation, like, you know what I mean? Like that's where Kirby Smart has like the
Kirby
decided
Smart has been there before.
he's won national championship. He's won an SEC championship. They've been able to. They've also been on the other side of those. But now at this point, they've been the team
But
that's
he's been
won.
there before.
Yeah, they've won a couple of championships, and he has been there before in these moments. Ole Miss really hasn't, and without Lane Kiffin on the sideline, having a coach like Pete Golding coming in, it's going to be tough. I mean, it is going to be tough. I don't know. It feels like Ole Miss has the better skill players, but it feels like Georgia has the better like physical, like the more physical players, and they can win on both sides of the line. And at the end of the day, that's what's going to win you the football game. And I don't really see that changing like all that much in this time around. I guess when it comes down to it, I think Georgia can win, especially in the run game. I mean, that's so dominant when you shut down the run like that, and you can run the ball on the other team like that. It's just really hard to see how that flips basically. And then even when the other team led, you still are able to come back. Like chances are that doesn't even happen this game, where
I
they
don't know. I don't even know if I understand that Ole Miss has a slight advantage in the skill positions. I don't think
I
it's
don't think
anything
it's
like drastic.
yeah, I don't think
You
it's like
know?
that crazy either. Like Georgia's no like slouch there either.
No,
So
I think Georgia is gonna. I want to say they're actually going to win this convincingly. I say it's going to be at least by 2 scores.
two score, yeah, yeah. I'm kind of hoping it's like a one score game. Like,
I'm hoping Old Miss wins because I
I'm
don't really
hoping they
like
win
Georgia all that
too.
much.
Yeah, I don't like
But
Georgia like a lot either. But like, it's
yeah,
always
I am
yeah, it's hard.
no
It's hard
fan
to
of the
say.
Bulldogs, but you have to give them their
Yeah,
credit. They
they
are
are
the most
this.
legit SEC contender for the national title.
Yeah.
very good chance that they're going to have to run through 3 Big 10 teams to
I
get it, but
know, man, that's crazy. At least two, right?
yeah, at least two, at least two.
Two in semis and yeah. I mean, they'll probably have to go through both Ohio State and Indiana, or something like that. Is the most likely path for them, but assuming they both win. But yeah, I mean, like very interesting to see. It's always hard because like obviously Tulane had no chance against Ole Miss, and like that's probably who most people are rooting for. And then most people are probably going to shift over to Ole Miss against Georgia. That's probably not going to go like very many people's way, whether you're an SEC fan or you're not. So it's tough, but I just don't really see like Ole Miss really being able to do it, especially when Georgia's proven it before. And it's not like they just won like like on flash or like on like one play. It was like methodically like wearing them down, running the ball, stopping the run. Like those are all things that I see translating. So even though Ole Miss has very explosive skill players, like so does Georgia, and Georgia is the more physical team. I think they win this one. I'm not so sure they're able to beat like teams that are equally as physical, like Ohio State, Indiana later on. Like I think that might be their like where they might get stuck. But against Ole Miss, a team that hasn't been there before, I think Georgia's going to be able to take care of it. Especially considering they can assert their authority on both sides of the line of scrimmage, and I really think that's what this game comes down to.
I will say that it does slightly favor Ole Miss that this is the rematch and they lost the first time, because I don't know if you know about, if you look at the NFL,
Oh,
um,
that's true. Yeah, rematches like tend to favor the
rematches
team.
rematches can kind of bite you like a snake. I'm sure you've seen like the Saints beat the Bucks twice in the regular
Oh
season, but
yeah,
the
yeah,
Bucks
yeah.
beat
In
them
the
in the playoffs.
playoffs, yeah.
Now,
The
of
one
course,
time they beat the Saints is in the playoffs. That's right.
yeah, exactly. Because you're playing a good team. The more times you play a good team, the less. Yeah, how do I put this? The more times you play a good team, they're still a good team. You know,
Yep.
it's hard to go like 5-0. Actually, it's impossible to say to go
Yeah.
5-0 against another playoff team. I would say, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't think the if you beat them the first time, your chances of beating them the second time drop dramatically, I would say. And then the third time they plummet to near zero if college football ever had 3 matches. But that's what I
Yeah.
would say is that if you beat them twice, your ability, your chances probably plummet to near zero to beat
Yeah.
them a third time. And it's the same way in the NFL. That does slightly favor Ole Miss. However, there's too much going in Georgia's favor, and they'll get their second win in a row.
Yeah. I think Georgia's just a better team than Ole Miss. Like and yeah, it's not even like some like fluky like oh they're the better team because they won one time. Like they showed it. Like they were down by 9, they come back, they shut down the run, they take Ole Miss off the field, they run the ball at will, they score points. Chances are that it doesn't even get like that in this one. Like chances are Georgia is ahead this time. And even if they're not, they've proven ability to beat them. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. As much as like the good team, it's hard to beat a good team twice. Like I don't know. It's very hard for me to see Ole Miss win because I think Georgia's better where it matters most, which is in the trenches on both sides of the ball. And they could contain Chambliss. They can get the Rebels off the field. They can limit their receivers. They could shut down the run, and they could run the ball, and they could throw the ball. So like it's really hard for me to see Georgia lose this game, especially considering they've gotten better since then. They beat a very I mean they beat Alabama pretty convincingly, and I think they're going to be rolling on all cylinders. And like I said, it really comes down to the trenches. If they can shut down Lacey and they can just run the ball and have no problem with it, I really don't see any way that they lose the game. So yeah, I think the Dogs are going to win. Obviously, I think both of us are pretty clear that we're rooting for the Rebels. Especially now that Jackson Dart's on the Giants, that's another reason. But I think Georgia
That's not a reason why I care. I
not for
just don't
I
like
guess.
Georgia that much.
I just don't like Georgia a lot because I think I'm still a little salty that they beat Ohio State in the semifinals. Is one big reason. Number two is that they're an SEC team. Number three is that they overthrew Alabama, and they've gotten like worse than them somehow, and like it got annoying. So there's like a bunch of different reasons, but a lot of it has to do with like Ohio State and the SEC component of it, and them being like the overbearers of the SEC and not even the underdogs. Where like Ole Miss is like, oh, we're the fun underdog team, and I'm like, yeah, that's more appealing. Georgia's become like the big bad bully. Nobody likes that. Yeah, so I mean, hopefully Ole Miss wins. I don't think so. I think Georgia might lose later on in the playoffs, but that's kind of where we're at, though. I mean, really 4 good games this playoff. Like I said, best weekend probably of college football of the year. It's
Best
definitely
week.
yeah, week. It's not the weekend. I would say best week. Yeah, because I mean, you have 4 elite games. You have a bunch of other games surrounding them that are good. But these 4 games is just like must see TV from wall to wall. So it's like your best mix of quality and quantity. You might get more good games in the beginning of the season, like week 1. But this is like your best. Like you have 4 elite, top of the notch games, back to back to back to back, and over a New Year's holiday where you could just relax and just watch, enjoy. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much where we're at. I mean so um I mean it should be a good weekend of college football. 3 Big Ten teams in this in the quarterfinals. Looks like at least 2 of them probably are going to come out with wins. We'll see about Oregon versus Texas Tech. Georgia Ole Miss is going to be a good one too. But yeah, I mean, do you have like any, I guess, like final thoughts before we wrap this up?
Am I gonna have to say it again? The odds only favor the Big Ten. It is
In all
once
3 matches.
again the Big Ten's time to shine. It is once again the Big Ten's time to, you know, kind of put the rest of the college football on the back burner and prove why the schools up north are not going anywhere. You know, why the schools up north are still the historic powerhouses that they once were. I understand that, you know, since the year 2000, most of the national champions have been decided in the South. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But that was then. This is now. I really don't have a better way to say it. Sometimes conferences go on runs. Sometimes conferences, the Pac-12 had its run in the early 2000s. The SEC had its run in the late 2000s through 2010s. Now it is time to, you know, recollect, step back. Big Ten's time to shine. You know,
Yeah, it does look like it. I mean, I think they have the 2 best teams in this entire tournament. I mean, even their third best team is, probably be the best team in a lot of conferences in the country this year. So I mean, it's like it's a very good time for the Big Ten
if
and
you take Oregon and put them in any other conference, they would be playing for
for a
a
conference championship.
championship. They would be
100%.
they would be ACC champions.
Oh,
Just let's
easily.
just let's just
I
they
mean,
would
are you
be in
kidding?
the
Like, yeah.
they would be in the Big 12 championship. They would
Mhm.
probably be in the SEC championship.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. They might lose in those potentially, or they might win. But yeah, I mean, the
they
Big Ten
might
is
lose, they might win, but they'll still be there.
right. The only conference where they're not is the Big Ten, like which
Yep.
it goes to show a lot about where this conference is. That a team like Oregon is their third best team, and they're probably going to be favored in a semi or a quarter against a very 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 good Texas Tech team. So yeah, that's what we're talking about with the Big Ten right now. But no, like I said, should be a really good New Year holiday. A lot of football to get to. Really good for playoff games. I cannot wait for the recap episode, obviously, talk about what happened in all of these, if there's any surprises, if there's not, previewing semifinals, those are going to be good. But in the meantime, this has been another episode of Sports Vibe, episode 104. Yeah, enjoy the New Year's, enjoy all the football that's to come over the next few days. Enjoy these 4 glorious matchups and 2 glorious days of college football, and we will see you next time.
Have a good night, guys.